You wear lots of hats, don't you?
I do.
You know, DJ, producer, radio show, you know, you're wearing lots of hats and you've done all sides of the industry, haven't you?
Yeah, I have indeed. I've spent time as an A&R, I've signed records, I've had a record label. Anybody that's in the music industry, you've got to wear lots of different hats. Again, coming up when I did, radio was a key part of me discovering music.
Welcome to the Global Club and Dance Hall of Fame podcast with myself, Clara Griffin, and Big Al. Sat with us now is a DJ, producer, and award-winning broadcaster known for his influence and energy across dance music and radio. We celebrate MistaJam's journey into the Global Club and Dance Hall of Fame. Welcome.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
You.
And lovely to meet you.
Oh, so we would love to know, when did you first discover music?
Music is one of my first memories. Like, I've always been completely obsessed with music. I was the very geeky little kid who had a Fisher-Price record player, and if I kind of would go around to any family houses or friends' houses, I would be the one that would be at the record collection looking at the vinyl and just getting really obsessed, and very much so from a very, very young age, music was the thing for me. Obsessed.
You knew your path.
I didn't know how to get into it. You know, Council Estate in Nottingham, there was nobody else that I could look up to and go, oh, so maybe I could do this and therefore that could happen. But I'm just obsessed with music, listening to music, studying it, listening to as much of it as I could. It chose me, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Fantastic.
In your earlier days, what kind of music influenced you in order for you to then discover that you wanted a career in music?
I think it was all kinds of genres. I mean, you know, I'm an 80s baby, 90s kid, so I grew up in probably the best era for everything. You know, house music being brand new at the point where, you know, I was really getting into music. Pop music at that point was amazing. You still had things like Top of the Pops where there would be underground records that would cross over,
onto
but also absolutely onto Top of the Pops. But then you would also have, you know, the people that were the megastars, the Michael Jacksons, the Princes, the Phil Collinses of this world. So I think I grew up around so many different kinds of music that it informed my love and my taste. I got heavily into hip hop and rap for a long period of time. Britpop happened when I was a teenager, so I was a very kind of eclectic kid. So I was in a rock band at school with my school friends during lunch times, and then in the evening I would go and try and figure out how to be a DJ and practice in my bedroom. So eclecticism has always been something that I've loved.
This is just the music, isn't it? It's just generally, yeah.
And do you remember your first gig, your DJ gig?
I do. My first ever DJ gig was, I used to go to an acting group back home in Nottingham called the Television Workshop. There's been some really, really big actors that have come from that. If ever you've watched a Shane Meadows film, or if you know Samantha Morton, or any of those kind of actors that come from Nottingham, they all came through the Television Workshop, and I was a member. And there was always a Christmas disco. And I remember kind of the year before I ended up being the DJ, I was stood next to the guy that was DJing this Christmas disco. I must have been about 11, and just completely obsessed by looking at his decks and what he was doing. And he turned to the group leader and said, next year you just get him, he knows what he's doing. So my first DJ gig was at...
You were doing your apprenticeship, but...
Basically, yeah. And then after that, I kind of, at the age of 14, I found a youth club near me in the Hyson Green area of Nottingham, and they did this programme that was Black History, drugs awareness and music. They had a community recording studio
attached. That all
goes
together, that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, let's be very honest, 100% it does. But they had this community recording studio out the back of the youth club. So I started to go there, and I learned how to produce there, first time ever in a studio. And then, because it was attached to a youth club, we would regularly kind of throw parties and do stuff of that nature at the same time. So lots of those kind of memories, lots of youth clubby kind of kids things that then was like, okay, that's all great. Because of the youth club, I started DJing for a hip hop group, and the first, I suppose you could say, official booking was at the Hacienda in Manchester.
Well, that's not a bad start, is it?
That's not a bad gig.
No, I was 14.
Was it Mike Pickering and no? It was prior.
This is much later.
Oh, later. Okay.
This is literally 2 weeks before it shut down forever.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we're talking 1997.
Okay, the late
The
part.
much later days. So I walked in, and you could see there was still the kind of ghost of the past that was still there. It was still very much the Hacienda. It was definitely past its glory days, but you know, to be able to say that the first proper gig was there.
You were there. You done one of the classic venues, didn't you?
Absolutely. And to do it at 14.
Yeah, pretty.
You know,
pretty
maybe
good.
part of the reason why it shut down forever is they were letting 14-year-olds in there to DJ. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And when did you then go from your DJing days into radio?
Because you wear lots of hats, don't you?
I do.
Producing, you know, we just had John Jules on, same thing. You know, DJ, producer, radio show. You know, you're wearing lots of hats, and you've done all sides of the industry, haven't you?
Yeah, I have indeed. I've spent time as an A&R. I've signed records. I've had a record label. I've done. Anybody that's in the music industry, you know, you've got to wear lots of different hats. But for radio, for me, you know, again, coming up when I did, radio was a key part of me discovering music. But I didn't know how I would get into radio. When I was, again, around about 14, 15, there's a university in Nottingham Trent University. They had a limited FM license. And as part of that license, they had to have local DJs on. So I basically bullied my way onto the student radio station when I was still doing my GCSEs. And that was my first taste of actually what radio was. I had no idea how I could turn it into a career though. A few years later, the BBC launched a station called One Extra that essentially was a station for people like me who were black, who had a love of this music, who also didn't really have a defined route into broadcasting. And I applied to try and get on there and didn't succeed. But a few years later, I was a promoter in Nottingham with a few friends, and we were putting on some events, and we invited One Extra to actually come and do a live broadcast at one of our events. And it was at that event that they found me. They discovered who I was.
Was that the Radio 1 at the time?
That was Radio 1 Extra at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So they said, do you do radio? At that point, I'd been doing pirate radio for a good few years, so I was able to produce 8 hours worth of demos for them. And they asked me in 2005 to come and pilot for a show. I went and piloted for the show, and I walked out of the building with a show. And that's kind of, you know, 21 years later.
It was a perfect fit then, having them there. And
very much similar to kind of discovering music. It's one of those things where I think it found me rather than it being anything that I planned. And from One Extra, I then went from One Extra by itself to One Extra and Radio 1. And then during lockdown, I kind of felt like I've achieved everything that I possibly could at Radio 1 and One Extra.
There's a story, isn't there, for the Radio 1, isn't it? Tell us the story of Radio 1 where you moved on. There was a reason why you moved on, wasn't there?
Well, during lockdown, it was kind of, I'd got to that point where it felt like I'd achieved everything that I possibly could. I'd taken over Dance Anthems a couple of years before that and turned it into the biggest dance show on the BBC. It was the biggest dance show. It was the biggest radio show for under 35s on iPlayer. And it kind of felt like I'd achieved everything that I wanted to. And with lockdown happening, and with me still kind of at that point being a key worker, because I'm a broadcaster on the radio, still commuting in and out of London, it just felt like now was the right time. So what I did is I'd spoken to a good few friends of mine about advice as to what to do next. What should I do next? I spoke to a legendary UK DJ called Chris Moyles, who used to have the biggest radio show in the country, and he's a good friend of mine. And he'd moved over to Global, and he'd suggested that maybe I should have a conversation with Global, and if I were to move over to Global, what would I do? And I pitched the idea for Capital Dance, a dance music station, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's for everyone.
Right.
That isn't about how cool you are, it's about do you like this music? And if you like this music, you're welcome. So I pitched that as an idea to them, and they took me up on the idea, and we launched in 2020, and now we've grown to be the most listened to dance station in the country.
I am so glad that you launched it, because it's one of my go-to DAB channels when I listen in the car when I'm in traffic. I might just put Capital on. So many new releases I've discovered because of Capital. It's really good for that.
So it's not the run-of-the-mill, like what I was talking earlier about radio, where a lot of the big stations, it's just on a loop, isn't it? The same tracks over and over again. You don't follow that pattern, no?
We do have a playlist, but the playlist we update every week.
Okay.
And we've got
so it doesn't get stale.
It doesn't get stale. It absolutely, and that's one of the things for us is that, there's going to be those familiar records. There's going to be those records that the way that radio works is that people tend to listen for a 15-minute block. So you've got to make sure that you've got those records that you really believe in, that you're playing a little bit more than others. But, we've got a real kind of passion over at Capital Dance to play new music as well as putting it into context.
Yeah.
So rather than it just being new, unfamiliar, what the hell is this?
Yeah, you couldn't do that, but no.
It's putting it into context by playing it with some classics, by playing it with some of the biggest tunes that are around at the moment. There's a very small team that work on Capital Dance, but we're very passionate about it.
It's always about the passion with the music. That's the whole thing is about it. The whole scene is about the music, isn't it?
Yeah. It has to be.
It has to be. I mean, that's what drives everything. The music. I've been saying to a lot of the guests recently, this is like an extended family, isn't it? The dance music scene. Everyone seems connected somehow. Even though you're probably a great deal younger than me, but it's still the same love of music, isn't it?
It is. It has to be, because the industry isn't easy, and especially within dance music, it's never been easy. And ultimately, you have to have a passion for it to drive you through. You have to love music. Otherwise, why are you trying to stand in front of people to play music? Otherwise, why are you trying to make music? Why are you trying to enthuse about music to other people? If you don't love it, then there's loads of other jobs that you can go and do.
Listen, I've said it many times. My best advice to anybody: do what you love. It's not working. If you do what you love, it's not like work, is it?
Because then it becomes more about your life rather than it's just a job. It's something that kind of resonates and emulates you as the person.
I agree. And you know what? For a very long time, I think there's been a lot of money around dance music, and you will have experienced it. You will have experienced it where you come across people who are in it to make money. And they don't care about the music. They don't last long.
They get found out quickly, don't they?
To me, that's not the right authentic path. And also, if you're just chasing the money and you're not chasing the creativity, you're not chasing the kind of elements that all come into it, and the love of it as well. We're
interviewing at the beginning. We still mainly the beginning, but people like that. We started moving on a little bit. People from 55 to 65. They're still DJing. There's a reason why they're still DJing. It's because they still love it, and that's the whole reason for them being in this thing, because they just love it. They would do it even if they weren't getting paid. That's the difference.
That's really important. Because if you don't have that love and that passion, if you love it, it will love you back.
Yeah.
It might not love you back in the ways that you think it might, but it's exactly that. People ask me every now and then, what's my goal? And my goal is to do this for as long as possible.
Yeah.
I love music. And the reason why I love dance music so much is because it's the collection of genres that is purely about the energy. It's purely about...
Well, famously, they're on the news saying that it makes you live 6 years longer.
Well, then we're all right.
House music.
House music.
Do something to your DNA or something like
that. And your endorphins and stuff.
Because it's to do with resonation.
That's a real thing.
Because I don't know if you saw the scientific study that they did with water. So if you have a glass of water and you stick a post-it note on it and you say negative words to that glass of water, they did this science study where they basically observed that water, and that water was going muddy. It was just looking disgusting. In the microscopes, they were just seeing all these weird, horrible, distorted shapes. And then you would say to the water, love, all these positive words.
Well, positive things are always good, isn't it?
The water was crystal clear. The water resonated as beautiful crystals. And I believe that's the same pattern as music. Like, it does something to your body.
Isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
And we all respond to vibrations, regardless of whether we want to or not.
Well, I was going to ask you this question, because this is a global club and dance. It's still relevant, because I ask about, did the magic bite you in Ibiza like it bit the rest of us?
Yeah.
I mean, is it spiritual? Is it magnetic? What is it for you?
What I can remember is being a kid and watching Ibiza Uncovered on the TV.
It was a terrible program. There was only
For
two
me
good
and
things.
my generation.
There was only two good things about that program. It's Lisa Ranson doing the talkover and Fatboy Slim doing the theme tune. The rest of it was rubbish.
But for me and my generation, that was wow.
You see something different, that's what you see.
I saw something in that I can only speak for myself. I saw something in that was, I want to be there.
You want to go and have a look at this, yeah.
That looks like me. That looks like something, I want to do it. And I didn't manage to get over there until 2006. And that was because I'd always said to myself, same with a lot of places in the world, I'd love to go to Australia. I've never been, but I would want to go if I'm going to DJ there.
DJ, yeah.
Because I spent too long being the person that would go to clubs and be like, I want to be there. I want to play music. You're not playing what I would want to play. You're not watching what these guys do it. So I always said, Ibiza, I'm only going to go if I
when
get
you
booked.
get the first gig out there.
And I got the first gig in 2006.
Who was that?
It was playing at S Paradis.
Yeah, great place
for
to
a hip
start.
hop and
I love
R&B
Esperanto.
night called Love Dough, that's still going, I think, in some form in Newcastle. But they were doing their first foray over into Ibiza, and bearing in mind it's a hip hop and R&B night, I land at Ibiza airport, I walk out of the doors and I go, I get it. Straight away.
You get something, don't you? There's something going on.
Yeah, I get it.
This is an ongoing conversation with every guest. You know, I say it bit me, and I can't stop going back.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. I mean, the hotel that they put us in had no aircon. There was cockroaches. Like, it was properly like it was the worst, one of the worst hotel experiences. I'm not a diva. From a council estate, I'm not a diva, but like I couldn't sleep on the mattress because it was. Ugh.
What a great time you had.
That's it. I walked into that club and yeah, it's a hip hop and R&B night, but I started playing house music and it went off and it was amazing. And no matter what happened, I walked out of there and I said, I need to be back. I've been really lucky in the fact that over the last 20 years, I've pretty much been back every year.
Well, that's what happens. If you love it, it just keeps dragging you back, doesn't it?
Well, I've taken my family over there. My kids love it as much as I do. There's so much more to Ibiza than just the clubbing.
And also it is the club capital of the world, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, I always said to people, because when I first went out in 1980, just me and two of my friends, I met two of my friends there, but I came back and went back at the end of the summer and took 13 of my mates, and it just, every time I went, come back raving about it and saying, this island is unbelievable. It's like, we've never seen anything like it. These super nightclubs, tiny little island with 5 of the best clubs in the world, all in the same island.
And even now, you see American DJs go, that's where I want to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be filling stadiums in the States, but they want to come over to Ibiza, and it makes perfect sense. But I've been really lucky because I think there's literally a couple of clubs that I haven't played.
You said Chinois.
I haven't played Chinois and I haven't played Universe.
He wants to play Chinois.
But I did Space before it closed. I got invited by Carl Cox to curate a night in El Salon, which is the tiny room. This was in 2013, so the family moved over. They were there at that point I only had 2 children, I've got 3 now, but they were really young, but they were there for the summer and I was there every Tuesday and that was amazing. Pasha
in the from 91 to probably 97 was probably the best club in the world.
See, I understand that, but I still think it's a contender. I still think there's something special about
it's still a great club, but it's not the Pasha of old.
It's not the one that I saw on Ibiza Uncovered.
No.
That's what's changed about it over the years.
Well, they've changed the style. I love the old style with the loads scattered cushions everywhere, typically Spanish. It was just a nice club to go into. Even though it was indoors, it was I started doing all the clubs out, open air. But Pachar was always indoors. So, you know, but it had the feeling about it. You know, they always had the great resident DJs. So always, you know, it was a special place from them early 90s, definitely.
Very special place, but it still is.
It's still a great club.
But
Still a great club.
But it's also one of those things where I think, you know,
a little bit of the feeling's gone. New owners, it does that changes things.
I definitely can understand that. I can only go off what my own personal experience is, because I think I'm of an age where I'm a little bit too young to have. Well, I'm too young to have been there at that point.
Yeah.
But at the point where I got there was still something special about it, and there's still something special about it now.
Have you done Universe?
I haven't done Universe, but I did do Privilege.
Okay.
I did Privilege a couple of times. That was amazing. There's all of these clubs where you look at the list that they do every year on DJ Magazine of the biggest and best clubs in the world. And there's a reason why every single club in Ibiza is on there.
Yeah, if you're a DJ, you've got to be on that island. Yeah, I mean, you know, that. I mean, I've said that for years. If you're a DJ, that island's for you, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
So we ask a few questions. Who's your favourite DJ?
I've got numerous that I've looked up to over the years, but I have to go to one particular DJ who, again, I remember seeing on TV and going, how does he do that? My first time when I was in Ibiza in 2006, the taxi from the airport to San An, his picture was everywhere.
All the billboards.
All the billboards. And
it's pretty impressive, that, isn't it?
Being who I am, coming from where I come from, there's very few people that I can look up to and go, if they can do it, so can I. And Carl Cox, he's one of those people where he still has that passion and that love and that drive.
He still play different sets. He doesn't have to play the techie set that he's famous for.
I saw him at Southport a few years ago and he was just playing 80s kind of disco and boogie, and I'm like, yes! He'll play techno, he'll play house music, he'll play disco, he'll play hip hop, he'll play
hardcore as well, yeah.
But this is, I've still got Hit the Decks Volume 2, which was an album that was released that was during the kind of the rave era, where one side of it is an SL2 mix and the other side of it is a Carl Cox 4-deck mix. And he recently did the opening slot for The Prodigy. And he's playing all of that old hardcore stuff.
I was there, I loved it.
Is it as good as it looks?
Oh my God, it was so good. Yeah, I was there.
That's why Carl, for me, is one of the greatest of all time.
I said in my opening one of these, my episode, I said that Carl has probably been thereabouts the number one DJ nearly all his career. He's always been up there. You know, I know the Mixmag thing, 1 minute it'd be 50 and the next minute it'd be 1, but he's always been the number one for me. He's always been, you know, there's not many that can compete with him, is there?
No,
You know,
not at all.
He's a phenomenon. His career is a phenomenon, really. And we've got one of his best mates on later on.
Yeah.
Who they started doing like parties for their mates, Ray Locke. He's a guest later on.
Oh, amazing.
And they're still very good friends to this day. He was at the Prodigy gig as well. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What year was that when they started doing parties?
Oh, he's got old footage of them.
I've seen that actually.
Carl and Ray.
Archive footage.
Wow.
Like from the 80s?
Yeah.
That would have been like the Soul Boy era, the kind of
earlier. 70s.
And there wasn't that many people. It was just like him around like this desk.
Well, they started doing the sound system as well. They started doing
the sound system, and it was the jazz funk era that he started through. And, oh wow. Yeah,
Ray's here later. I mean, Ray's been a good friend of mine for many, many years, and they grew up together.
No, listen, blown away.
I have to say, I love your Instagram, your MistaJam Reacts. I love your reactions when you hear like specific sounds in tracks. What kind of sounds really kind of get you, if you were to think of sounds and music?
In terms of actual sounds, I think I'm a melody and chords guy.
Right.
Which is weird because I also really like techno. Which is the exact opposite of melody and chords. But I'm very much a melody and chords guy. I love the sound of like old kind of vintage synths. But for me, the thing that gets me with music is energy. I'm very much an energy person. I'm very much that kind of, that's I suppose why I'm able to do what I do in the way that I do it, because I can understand that things might be different genres, but the energy speaks to each other. Do you know what I mean? whenever I listen to something, the thing that I tend to react to first is how a track feels rather than how a track sounds. And I'm very, very much a lyrics last kind of person. Some of my favourite records that I must have listened to millions of times, I still don't know the words. But I know the melody and I know how it makes me feel.
I'm the opposite. I love the lyrics. I love beautiful voices. Yeah, that really gets me, the beautiful voices type thing.
It's funny because when I'm writing, I'm better at lyrics.
The minimalist thing is, I was never, because I like happy house, I like, vocals, I like that kind of stuff. But then, there's certain tracks. There's the story with Dave Lambert, is I was the one who told him to sign BBE. Because I just had that noise at the beginning, and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is good, and it was a beginning of a sort of a trancey new era, wasn't it?
It was.
There's no vocals on that, but yeah, I got it straight away. I thought, oh, this is a hit. This is, and he signed it on the back of me saying it. So
he owes you a good percentage.
Talking about records, what have been your all-time favourite over the years?
I think that any DJ that finds it easy to answer that question isn't really a DJ.
Throw a load of us at him. It's really good for the clips because we put those tracks on the clips.
No, but you are not a DJ if you can very easily answer favourite track of all time. If you give an answer straight away, you're not a DJ.
There's so many tracks in there.
There's so many,
and genres as well.
And genres. I suppose for me, I've rediscovered my love, even though it's never gone away, for kind of French house recently. There's been a lot of French house that I've been really going back to. Like, I remember when I first passed my driving test, I was listening to Daft Punk's Discovery album literally all the time as I was driving.
I had them at Privilege once.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
And Laurent Garnier.
Guetta told me an amazing story of how he was stood on the beach trying to promote Daft Punk coming over to Ibiza. One of the first times that he had them over.
It was probably that night.
I was going to say it was probably that night.
I had to share the night with them.
With a boombox.
I had to share a night. I was devastated. So can you imagine Brasilio, who was the guy that sort of, my mentor really, but he was the one putting the nights on. We had Thursday nights at Privilege, and he says to me, "You have to share the night this Thursday." I went, share a night? I've never shared a night in my life. He said, no, you're going to have to. I said, with who? He said, oh, these French people. And I went, no, what, the DJs as well? And he went, yeah. And I said, who's playing? And he went, Daft Punk and Laura Gay. I said, oh, that's all right. I really don't mind that.
We'll have that.
We'll have that. Yeah, we'll take that. So, yeah, that was an amazing night. And funny enough, Terry Farley was here earlier. He was on that night. And John Marsh from The Beloved.
Ooh.
So it was a great night. It was a fantastic night.
Can you stop making me feel really bad that I'm not older, so I couldn't have been at those places?
There's a story to that as well. John Paul Gaultier was running around in his striped t-shirt, and I was, being Alan as usual, being a bit crazy. I got him a headlock. I'm going, John Paul Goatee beard. So yeah, pretty mental, but a fantastic night. I mean, it's one of those nights that I won't never forget.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
And we were talking about music. Is there any other
more
tracks
music
that kind of stand up for you?
I suppose from that era again, there's the Alan Brax and Fred Folk record Intro. I think that almost speaks to a number of my influences because it's the sample from the Jets' Crush on You from 1986 that I was obsessed with when I was a kid. And then, the first time that I'm landing in Ibiza, the first time that I'm kind of paying full attention to what it is that I might be able to play, that record's out there, and that record was huge and still was huge, 4 years after it was released. Very recently, I've really got into a producer called MPH. Now he's an English producer. He makes kind of garagey house, but it's a very broad spectrum of garagey house. Right, and when Thomas Bangalter recently did his kind of comeback DJ set with Fred again, he was playing some of MPH's records. And his sets, he's put up a couple of sets online recently. I've been working out to them. And I would not recommend that because it will give you push a little bit too hard. So my legs still hurt from working out 4 days.
You always know if they're good because if you train into it, it's got the energy, isn't it?
It's got the energy. Yeah. I'm an energy guy, so.
And then over the years, who has been your biggest influences?
There's lots of them. We've already mentioned Carl Cox. Yeah. He was definitely a massive influence on me as a broadcaster. Pete Tong. obviously, listening to him religiously, listening to Trevor Nelson religiously, listening to Spoonie and the Dream Team religiously, Steve Wright as a broadcaster as well, the late great Steve Wright. So I kind of almost pitch myself as a broadcaster in between those two worlds of understanding where that goes, but also understanding that it's about an entertainment kind of offering when you're in the radio. I suppose in terms of artists, Stevie Wonder is a huge influence on me.
I saw him at Wembley a long time ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
I saw him at Hyde Park. My wife and I went to go and see him at Hyde Park.
I'll never forget that Wembley gig. I went with Greg Edwards, who I was friends with at the time, and I sat next to John Travolta, and it was the same time as Saturday Night Fever, and I thought, oh, bloody hell, I'm sitting next to Mr. Saturday Night Fever.
Wow, that's amazing.
But the music was brilliant. No, Stevie Wonder's brilliant.
Stevie Wonder, Stevie Wonder. Niall Rodgers as well is a huge influence on me, and luckily enough, I've been out on tour with him for a couple of times.
He had his own sound, didn't he, Niall?
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose you could say that if it wasn't for Niall Rodgers and Bernard Edwards, would disco had sounded the way that it ended up sounding, which then meant would house music be as it is, which then, going back to the French house, a lot of those massive French house records sample Nile Rodgers and Chic. So
I find it fascinating that you've got the Italian house with all the piano-y stuff, and then you got there's different, and the Germans are a little bit more harder, and it's amazing, and what Ibiza gives you is all of that put in the same pot, that's the amazing thing about Ibiza.
Well, even with like the Italian house, if you go back and see the Italian disco, they were obsessed with Chic and trying to copy. There was a band called Change that was an Italian disco project that were trying to be Chic, that then spawned, because they were so successful, that's where a lot of the Italian house started to come through from that same kind of
that was very popular in the early 90s, that Italian house with the piano and all that. I loved all that. It was brilliant. Daniel Davoli and Black Box and all that kind of era.
Corona.
I loved all that.
What I'm loving about learning about music is just all the intertwining connections of like who's influenced who, and everyone.
Everyone influences everyone, doesn't it? That's what tends to happen.
Yeah, it's just a sort of whole entire big unity. Also, what have you got coming up in the future? Because I know that you've been doing a lot of music productions and all sorts.
Yeah, I mean, as an artist, it took me a very long time to get out of my own way and actually release music. I've made music for as long as I've been a DJ, but I was always too scared to actually show anybody my music. But I decided.
You got over that?
I got over that. I absolutely did get over that. And what I've been doing recently is I've just been working really hard in the studio just to make something that feels the way that I play as a DJ. Mm-hmm. I think, as a DJ, what I try and do is weave records together rather than just mix them. And try and keep the energy going.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing with my productions. That's what I've been doing with the music that I've been putting out. And there was a release very recently on with Roland Clark, doing a remix of one of his old records, but completely reimagining it in a different way. And it was really amazing to actually kind of reach out to Roland Clark and have a conversation with him. And it's amazing, all of those kind of the legendary house music names that I know them. And if you'd have told 14-year-old me that would be where I'd end up at this point in my career, I'd never believe you. But watch this space. Watch this space.
Gigs, you in Ibiza much this summer?
I am. I've got a few more at Pasha.
It's Pacha.
I know. But I refer back to the fact that I'm from a council estate in Nottingham.
The same as me.
Pacha. I've got a few more there this season. David Guetta very kindly has invited me to go and play alongside him at Ushuaia.
He's been quite good to other DJs, David Guetta, hasn't he? In the last few years.
Do you know what? David Guetta gets a very bad rep from certain people, and he really understands who he is and what he does.
I think at the beginning, with the David Guetta story, was the EDM and the house people didn't like it, and he was in our Ibiza. That was the story. They put a lot of people's noses out of joint because he wasn't really playing. He was playing pop music, wasn't he? Dance pop music. And now he's older. He's he's doing both, isn't he? He does that for his shows and he does the parties.
So again, I released a record with him a few years ago. We've we've had a number of really good conversations. He started off in 1984 in gay clubs because it was the only place where he could play electro
They were playing
and house
high energy.
and
They were
hip
playing
hop.
high energy, weren't they?
Yeah, and so for him, he knows music. He understands music, and I get the purist thing. I do. I've never been a purist, but what David has done is he's opened the door for other people, and he backs them. So we did the record together. He had me supporting him at High a good few times. He's had, he's brought through lots of other artists, and a lot of those purists haven't. Because this is mine and I'm going to keep it.
I see that he was with Majestic, for instance.
Yeah.
He is quite accommodating like that, isn't he?
He's not only accommodating, but he's a genuinely lovely guy. But you and him talking about music, he knows because he was there.
Yeah.
And he had crossover records and he made records that were popular. But again, I refer back to Top of the Pops. A record is popular because people like it. My ethos has always been that a big tune deserves a big audience, and I know that a lot of purists, but I don't care.
No, listen, I'm a bit of a purist, but not in that respect. I mean, a good record's a good record. That's the end.
I don't believe in a guilty pleasure. I think that if you like a record and it has merit, why would you call it guilty?
I sort of see the EDM as like that high energy stuff in the gay scene back in the late 80s. That's why I couldn't take it so serious. That's what it was.
But it wasn't supposed to be taken seriously.
Maybe I was looking at it through the wrong eyes.
But also as well, the amount of I say new, and I was about to say young, but the 20 to 25, 30 odd year old DJs that are now at the top of their game, their entry point was EDM.
Yeah.
Was Swedish House Mafia, was Avicii, was Guetta.
Big influence, yeah.
Sometimes we forget that a scene has to have an entry point.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have an entry point, it's going to die. And a lot of that EDM stuff I don't like and didn't like, but there were so many great songs and great melodies that I think you can't dismiss.
I definitely take my hat to him now because he has been very nice to bringing other talent through and stuff like that.
And the legends as well.
And the legends, Carl works with him as well sometimes. Yeah, I mean, you don't get any bigger than them two together, does it? Really?
Unless if you threw Norman in as well.
But Norman's a phenomenon, isn't he? I mean, he's sort of. He's a different tip, isn't he? He's in the dance music, but he's in his own little genre, really. I think Norman. We did Norman recently. He's fantastic, Norman. He invited us to his house. He was a gem, really. I've got nothing bad to say about Fatboy Slim. Absolutely brilliant, Norman.
Great.
So the whole reason we're here today, MistaJam, is to induct you into our Global Club and Dance Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
You're a star, mate. You're a star.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming down and having a chat.
Thanks for having me. This is a smiley face. Look at this.
Well deserved.
That's what it says on the can. It's a 12-inch smiley face at that.
Yeah, I know. This is going pride of place in the studio. Thank you very much.
So that's all from us at the Global Club and Dance Hall of Fame. Remember to like, subscribe, and to follow us on all of our platforms. See you soon.